Well, I'm calling this video setState can be tricky for the simple reason that setState can sometimes be confusing when you first start to learn about it. So let's look at a couple examples that will hopefully clarify a few things. Our objectives will be to use a function as the first parameter to setState and to add a callback to the setState to determine when the state is up to date. So first, we'll take an example of a setState call that depends on a previous version of the state. In this example, we have a state where we just are keeping track of a counter. So every time something happens, we want to increment a counter. So you might write some code that looks like this. We're passing in a new value for counter, which depends on the old value of the counter. So inside that setState, this.state.counter gets incremented by 1. But the problem comes in when you do this multiple times. So if I have a couple set states like this, the value that you'll get after all these set states have run will be 2. And that's probably not what you expected. You probably wanted it to be 3. Well, the reason that's happening is because you can essentially think of set state as doing this. So when there are multiple set states that are called that are depending on the previous state, it's kind of like doing an object assign. So in this assignment, the counter value that we're going to get after all these object.assigns are over with is still just going to be 2, right? Because this.state.counter never changes in all of these object.assigns. It's all going to be the same thing. So how do we fix this problem? Well, setState can actually take an update function rather than an object. So this is what you want to use whenever the state that you're updating depends on a previous value for the state. So as you can see here, this function has 2 parameters, the previous state and whatever our props are. And then our goal is to return an object for the new state. And inside of this object, we're assigning the value for the counter to be the previous state.counter plus 1. And when we use this function update format, we're always guaranteed to get a correct value. So again, to reiterate, the rule is whenever a set state depends on the previous state, use a function parameter rather than just passing an object. The other gotcha with setState is that setState is asynchronous. So when I call this.setState and I provide an object with name and Tim, if I'm doing some debugging and I want to check the value of state.name right after that, the update will not have happened yet. So this is a common error that I see all the time when people are first learning React. They try to figure out what's going on in their application by putting a console log right after the set state. So this will not work. And that's because, again, set state is asynchronous. So the correct way to do this is to provide a callback parameter to set state. Just like this. So in the first parameter, we're providing our object or perhaps our update function, depending on which one we want to use. The second parameter is a callback function. You aren't provided any parameters to this callback function, and this will only be invoked after that set state has completed. So you know at this time that this.state.name will be the result of whatever update that you tried to run here. So that's it. That's our 2 big gotchas. You want to use an update function whenever your update depends on a previous state, and you want to be aware that setState is asynchronous. So if you want to know when setState is finished, provide a callback function. Next up, we'll look at the browser plugin for React.